finally Friday, and it's time to celebrate. Guess what? We are done the week. At school, we gave midterm reports. So, what happens is it was time to celebrate. It was important for me to tell my students, okay, let's take a moment and tell me what you're proud of with respect to your report card. And at first, it was very hard for them to find something to be proud of. And all they could think of, they looked at the number of the marks in the course and so on, and all they could see was the idea that they had a number and that represented them. And we had a discussion about the fact that my students are not numbers, and second, they cannot represent in a number. No, you cannot see in a number all of what they are or all of who they are. And after this discussion, then some of them said, okay, I am proud for my improvement in my math class. Other people said that I've seen an improvement in what I've done. Other people mentioned that they had a better mark than friends, but not just for the mark, but for the fact that they had competed to be better. Some people mentioned about strategies that they worked on to improve, and the whole idea was that once we continued the discussion, then they realized that a report card is like a snapshot of where they are at. So that means that at work, you have to do the same thing. Every so often, if you have a project, do a timeline. Let's say that you have a month, 2 months, or 2 weeks to do a project. Try to see like halfway point where you're at. And then you can see, okay, these are the things I'm proud of, and these are the lessons I've learned. Because keep in mind that every time you work on a project, the idea is that you need to learn a few things. Sometimes you need to ask help for a few people. Ever so often you might say, well, I had an idea and it's not working. And then you still have time to work through new ideas or find new people to collaborate. If you don't have you could call them pit stops, where along the way you look at what you've done, look at your ideas, how far along your projects is going. And if you don't do that, at some point you say, okay, I have 2 weeks to do something. And if you wait for 2 weeks to look back and assess what you've done, you might realize that, oh, maybe it was the most amazing idea you had. But sometimes you could say, well, if I had just stepped back a week ago, I may have noticed that it's not quite what I was hoping for. So here is a pointer for you. Always find times to schedule pit stops or points where you can reflect, look back, and see how you are doing. There was a time when I was not doing that, where I always had a list of things to do, and as soon as one thing was done, I would take it off the list and it was added to another one. So what happens is it was always a busy day, and I never had a chance to find a way to appreciate what I've done, appreciate how far I had been, and then also notice how much I had learned. So keeping that in mind, I want you to do the same. And too often we forget. And I often called in previous videos how celebrating is a key part of learning. If you are in a leadership position, you might notice that the people in your team may have forgotten to celebrate their achievements or to have checkpoints in where they're at. Too many times some people will say, okay, well, I want to be alone. All I can, just tell me what to do and I'll get there. Some people are amazing for doing that. Others, all they need is for you to check every so often, every couple days, sometimes every day, to see how far they've been and just give just encouragement for what they do. Because there's some people in a team, all they want to do is get work done and they're happy. There are other people, all they want to do is to feel that they belong in a team. So as a leader, if you're part of a team, you need to be aware that many people in your team have different ways of addressing how they feel. I know that every so often you could say to a friend of yours or someone in your team that you're proud of them, that they're doing a good job. Some people will just brush it off or feel uncomfortable. But it is a skill, because once you realize that there are things that you do well, there are things that you recognize for, it gives energy to go to the next step. Because sometimes so many people, and it has happened to me in the past, where you're part of a team part of a department, and a whole bunch of people have different ideas, and a whole bunch of people have different ways of addressing something. So what happens is chaos all the time. There are other places where it's almost micromanaged. Everybody gets together, everybody needs to know what's happening, and then you spend so much time in meetings that you feel that nothing gets done. I don't remember which video I was listening, but there was a person that was talking about a team and how to manage a team. And he was talking about the fact that spending a long time in meetings may not be the best way. However, when you meet with people, either as a group or individually, what you have to say is, okay, you want to know from your team member what they're doing and the results they've had. Things that work well, things that they need some help or some work with. It's important because once you know what is done, what worked and what didn't work, then you can assess, okay, what are the things I need to do for them? What kind of training? Do they need one-on-one help? And these are all part of discussing with your team member. On that note, I want you to know that I'm proud of you. If you've got no one around you that tells you that you're doing great, go in front of a mirror and tell yourself how much you've done this week. Tell yourself what you've done that you're proud of. Tell yourself what you need help with so that you can start rehearsing, so the next time you're part of your team, you know exactly what to do. On this, I will wish you an excellent evening. I'm going to go for a car ride. It will allow me to rest a little bit, and I'll see you tomorrow. On this, I'm going to put the link here to the next video, which I'm sure you will enjoy. On this, see you in the next video.